Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lionel Pover from ET Edge, and it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to this live webinar on cloud modernization and predictive outcomes, powered by IBM. This webinar is brought to you by the Economic Times in association with IBM. With cloud computing adoption taking place at breakneck pace, large organizations are successfully implementing specific software as a service solutions or adopting a cloud-first strategy for new systems. However, many are struggling to get the full value of shifting the bulk to the cloud. A recent Gartner survey of senior finance executives has revealed that by 2020, 36% of enterprises will use the cloud to support more than half of their transactional systems of record. It also indicates that companies are moving to the cloud much faster than ever before. However, modernizing the IT environment in a methodical way remains a challenge. Apps and data infrastructure must be transformed in the cloud journey, but then the question is how enterprises can drive full value of modernization with a cloud-first approach to pursue digital transformation. With this, let me now hand it over to Mr. Bibhuti Rat, Senior Cloud Solutions Architect at IBM. I would request each of you to please be present at the very end of the webinar and actively participate in the polls as well as fill in the feedback forms to be eligible for some exciting vouchers, gift vouchers. Please visit the webinar website for detailed terms and conditions. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Rat.
I hope you have having a good day today. So before we start, a quick introduction to myself. My name is Vibhuti Rath. I work as a cloud solution architect in the IBM Cloud team based out of Bangalore. And I have been in the cloud business from past 6 to 7 years. So I started my job in a startup doing on multiple infrastructure and DevOps things. Then I moved on to, I worked for 3 years in Microsoft, then 4 years in EMC, and right on IBM working as a cloud solution architect, primarily looking after IBM cloud offerings in the IBM India sales team. And I look after South as a region, and my job responsibility is to help customers and IBM partners to adopt IBM Cloud and cloud computing and help them with their journey to the cloud in different forms. Today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about what is the current cloud landscape, what are the different types of clouds, and what are the different types of offerings that IBM Cloud has in those spaces. We talk about public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud, and which are the clouds in demand, what are the clouds that gives you maximum business benefits, and which kind of cloud to select, and what is right for you. So, and mostly how you can use IBM Cloud to have a predictable cost in terms of your cloud computing and how you use cloud computing. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, and I would like to keep it interactive. Whenever you have any questions, feel free to put it across in the chat window, and I'll have a look at it and discuss about it at the end. I am not particularly a PowerPoint person, but I'll still try to keep it as interactive as possible and answer all your questions. Now, when we look at current landscape of cloud and on-prem infrastructure, and this is a study that was done by IBM, which tells 76% of the consumers expect the companies that they work with to understand their needs and requirements, which is pretty valid. When you talk about customers, at this point of time, most of the customer is working with the particular service providers, be it cloud or non-cloud. They are working with outsourcing agencies, they're working with managed service providers, they're working with cloud service providers, and when they plan a move to the cloud, they expect those service providers to understand their requirement because they have been working with them, they know their environment, and they expect that they will be understanding their requirement when it comes to cloud. Now, again, out of those 76%, 70% of the customers say understanding how they use those products and which are important to their business. It's not just like if I am IBM Cloud, I go to a customer and put IBM Cloud as a cloud service provider. It doesn't work these days. It's unless and until I go with a specific offering and go with a specific solution to a particular problem they are facing, it doesn't make sense to them. And they expect I would understand that particular pain point they are having, and I'll go with a solution to it, not with a bouquet of services that, okay, Mr. Customer, I have this, I have that, you select whatever you want. Those are the days that used to happen, but not these. Every time I go to a customer, the customer expectation is I know his problem and I have come with a solution to his problem. It doesn't matter which cloud it is. Now, similarly, when you talk about CIOs or leaders in the industry, they expect or they appreciate when we go with a particular problem to the customer that they don't understand. Say, for example, if it is company A and I'm going to company A and telling Mr. Customer, you might not know this problem exists today, but going forward, this problem will arise or may arise for you. Say, for example, recently the government of India has come with the data residency rule. The proposal has been met. They're trying to find out how they can figure out and how can make it passed in the parliament as a rule. Now, those are the kind of data the customer needs, and you tell Mr. Customer going forward, if you go with a data center that is out of India, you're going to be in problem because that is the kind of rule that is going to change. If the customer doesn't know, it is our responsibility to let them know this is something that is going to affect you, and you have to take the decision that you're going to take today so that you are compliant in future. And the leaders, the CIOs, the CXOs expect those kind of insights from people who are currently in business. Now, similarly, when you go to a customer, everyone has a unique problem. Like we spoke about data residency rule, if you go with the same particular problem statement to a startup that doesn't deal with end user data or financial data for end user, it is not relevant to them. So each and every customer has different kind of problem, and each and every customer's cloud journey is unique. So it is not a fit for all cloud solution at this point of time that works for all the customers. Each and every customer has different industry needs, has different customers and partners that it deal with, and have different cultures. When we talk about culture, how they handle data in that particular region, how they handle security, how they handle their consumers in that particular business, and depending on that, the problem statement becomes different. So everyone, each and every customer doesn't have the same set of problems that we used to have in the past. Now, as a trusted service providers, it's our job so that we can go and figure out what exactly is the particular customer's problem and how we can address them and how we can help them in the journey to cloud and how cloud will address those problems in terms of different multiple offerings. And we're going to talk about that, how the different customers have different needs and different customers have different requirements, and different cloud offerings are handling different problems for these different customers. Now, in today's world, when you look at customers, enterprises, large customers, banks, governments, manufacturing companies, telecom companies, each and every customer has their own set of complexity. So when you talk about complexity, most of them already has an on-prem. Some of them has a private cloud setup with VMware or Red Hat, and some of them has already began the journey to cloud. Some of them is still evaluating cloud. Some of them are trying to maybe doing some evaluation. Some of them are still figuring out whether cloud is the way to go ahead or not. So each and every particular customer has a different complexity involved. If you look at current scenarios, there are more than 6 cloud vendors. There is IBM Cloud, there is Azure, there is AWS, there is Ali Cloud, then there are hosting providers. So there's Google. So there are a whole lot of cloud vendors at this point of time with multiple, and when you talk about customers have multiple number of applications running, and which are hugely complicated. Some are pretty straightforward. And if you talk about large organizations, they also have to deal with a lot of data. Now, when you talk about data, right now, in IBM, we have bucketed data to 33 different data sources. When you talk about data sources, the data sources can be a mobile device, it can be a laptop, it can be an end user, it can be an ATM machine, it can be an IoT device, it can be multiple applications writing to data. So there are 33 data sources. You can imagine for a customer having 32 data sources, how complex that environment can become, and an impact of poor data. And we'll talk about what is poor data, what is rich data, what is good and bad data. Now, if you think about that, imagine how complex it gets for a large enterprise to figure out which cloud suits best for them, what kind of cloud they want to go with. It is private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, VPCs, what kind of cloud suits best for them. Now, over the couple of years, when we asked those customers, when we evaluated the data and the kind of potential customers have, it's around $3.7 trillion of IT investment worldwide where people are looking at when they're making a journey to cloud. Now, when you connect those particular data points across private clouds or on-prem data centers or public cloud, and those islands of data, when they get connected, you have a huge amount of complexity to be handled. Now, how do you handle those complexities? You need expertise to handle those complexities. You need people who have already gone through those complex processes and complex environment, who are experienced enough to understand those complexities and get an answer for it. You need those kind of people who will help those set of customers to go through those complexities and handle those complexities. Now, when you talk about cloud, there is a journey to cloud. It's not just that I switch it off on-prem and I switch it on online, or switch it off on-prem or switch it off on a public cloud or private cloud. There is no simple. I hope there is. I hope it can get as simple as that someday. But at this point of time, it is not as simple as that. Now, when you look at enterprises and large customers and so many amount of data and so many amount of data sources, it is not that easy so that you can switch it off at one place and switch it on one place. Now, when we talk about cloud migration, we also talk about lift and shift. Now, in my experience, It's hardly there are any, out of the 100 customers that I meet, less than 15% of the customers have workloads that you can do lift and shift. Just 85% of the customers, you cannot do a lift and shift of their applications and data. It needs to be customized. It needs to be handled in such a way that it works in cloud and functions the way the customer desires. Now, when you talk about application and data, you don't just have to migrate that particular data, you have to modernize. When you say modernize, you have to make it work in such a way and manipulate in such a way that it works in the cloud as well. Say, for example, when you take a traditional application and database to cloud, it might not work in autoscale environment. So autoscale might look fancy, and okay, I'll do autoscale and take that application, but not all the applications are fit for autoscale. There are a specific set of applications that are fit for autoscale. Now, similarly, when you take a traditional application to cloud, you have to make sure that that application is modernized so that it can understand how autoscale works and work with it. It's not this straightforward lift and shift that we can do. Similarly, once you modernize that particular application, how do you innovate it? And how do you innovate and optimize it? Take, for example, also bare metal servers. Now, then virtual machines came in. Now, after virtual machines, now we have containers as well. So, how do you make that application innovate so that it can work in those different scenarios? Once you bring it up from a bare metal or a virtual machine environment and pull it down the cloud and modernize it, we need to innovate that so that it works in a containerized environment as well, in a cloud-native environment as well. And once we have done that, how do we optimize it to control our cost? Because when you go to cloud, there are a lot of cost components involved. There is data, there is bandwidth cost, there is cross-continent cost, there is cost that is not visible to you. So how do you optimize that application so that you can control those costs and go forward and get the best out of it? Now let's look at what kind of application we can put in the buckets of on-prem, private cloud, and public cloud. Which kind of applications fits best and where it gives the maximum productivity. So you look at the traditional IT environment. You just put the application on a bare metal server or a virtual server, then let it run. You just have to take care of it, maintain it, and sometimes upgrade whenever the OEM pushes some upgrade. That is how it used to work. But when you go into a private cloud environment, what kind of application you select to go to private cloud, and what kind of application you select to go to public cloud? Now, if you say, for example, let's take backup and archive. Backup and archive is the easiest way you can move to public cloud. Why? Because it gives you peace of mind. You don't have to take care of backup and archive. Now, when you talk about archive, there is big headache of maintaining those tape libraries, huge amount of tape libraries, and it doesn't give you peace of mind when it comes to maintaining the sanctity of data. Any customer I have spoken to, if you tell them, sir, if your users or auditors or compliance manager, they come and ask you, can you give me a data that is 24 months old or 18 months old? They said, I can give you the data, but I'm not sure whether the data you can make use of it, because they are not sure whether the tape library that will restore the data will restore the data completely and in a way that can be run. I was working with a media company where they process movies, they render movies, and as a compliance, they have to store those movies for 7 years. Now, once a company came and told me, can you give me the data of this particular copy of a movie that was 4 years old, and they took that from the archive and gave it to the customer on desk, but that movie doesn't run properly. Sometimes the pictures are hazy, sometimes the pixel not coming up properly, and between some scenes are missing. So, which means there is a lot of potential that there can be data loss. Now, with public cloud, it makes things easier, where you can directly archive your archive data to object storage, which is cheap, and you can select a plan where there will be retrieval charges, but storage charges very less. Let's say, for example, when you talk about IBM Cloud Object Storage has a plan called Cold Vault, and Cold Vault will give you disk-based archiving capability with prices up to $7 per TB a month, which is very nominal when you look at to the kind of investment and kind of headache you have to take in terms of tape library. And the data will be on demand whenever you want. You can just restore from the archive and give it across. So you know the data will be available, and you have the peace of mind, and you save costs. So those are the kind of workloads that can be easily moved to public cloud. Now, similarly, when you look at the private cloud, what kind of applications or databases, what kind of workloads you can put on a private cloud, but not on public cloud or on-prem data centers. Like, say, for example, you have a large Redis cluster. Now, I want to put a Redis cluster. Redis is nothing but a caching mechanism for data. Now, if I have a large Redis cluster, and I want to put that in a public cloud where my data is on my on-prem, might not be a good idea because it needs a lot of latency. Public cloud will give me the scaling capability, but if my data is on-prem, if I put only Redis to public cloud, I might face latency issues. Right? So if I put it on a private cloud, I'll get the scaling feature as well as I don't have to worry about the latency because it is in a private cloud which is nearest to me. Then things like where the data needs to be maintained within the country or within a particular geographic region, that is again but I still want to capitalize on the benefits of public cloud features. So that is where we came up with something called IBM Cloud Private. IBM Cloud Private will give you the same flavor of IBM Public Cloud, but you will still have the option of hosting it on your premises where the data is not going out of your enterprise. So these are the kind of things that you need to keep in mind when we talk about public cloud. Now, before we move, let me understand how many of you. Let me understand how familiar with you are with public cloud. So I'm going to put across a poll quickly, and this could have the poll one here, and let's figure out what kind of audience we have. Okay, so this poll is just trying to understand what kind of audience we have. So based on your role, you can select what exactly you do in your organization, and if it is not one of them, you can select none of the above. So just trying to understand what kind of audience we have here, and so that you can write the conversation accordingly. So I'll hold on for 15 seconds. I'll give you 15 seconds, then we'll come back and start the discussion. Okay, all right. So here I see a quarter of audience as from the CXO level, and then there are more than 30% as system administrators, and around 15% of the audience belongs to the architect field. Okay, all right, wonderful. Okay, so now let's go to the next poll, which would be, let me figure out which cloud you have worked on so far and how familiar with you are with different cloud vendors, and what kind of cloud experience you have in terms of different cloud, like public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. So I would again give you 15 seconds, then I'll come back. All right. So thanks for that feedback. I see there are around 28% of the audience who haven't worked on any cloud so far. However, there are around 70% of audience who have at least worked on a particular cloud infrastructure, cloud platform, be it hybrid cloud or private cloud, public cloud. Okay. Now, so when we talk about private cloud, we talk about public cloud, we talk about hybrid cloud, what is best suited for a customer? It can vary from customer to customer. It is not a formula that you can apply. It all depends on what kind of application it is, what kind of workload it is, what kind of data it is it handling in customer data or not, whether it is financial transaction data. If these are the kind of data, then you cannot move those data out of a particular geography. Then you have to take care of where you put that data, what will be the suited data center. So these are the different kind of things that you need to consider. Then again, what kind of service the customer is looking at. When you talk about the hybrid cloud, say for example, if a customer is having a VMware infrastructure and they want to move to cloud, it is not possible without incurring a lot of cost and expenses to move to public cloud. So for them, the move can be gradual. They can move to a VMware infrastructure available on a public cloud, and then slowly they can spread to cloud native application and once they move to cloud. Similarly, if it is a customer that want to capitalize on cloud features, things like containers, things like modern data, analytics, artificial intelligence, those things the customer wants to capitalize but still doesn't want to expose their data to public cloud infrastructure, they can go with a private cloud and start with IBM Cloud Private, which will give them those features of cloud within their data center without leaving their data center. Data will still be there. Now, what are the different scenarios where you would consider a public cloud and a private cloud? The good news is you can either start with private cloud or public cloud. There is no such thing that If you are starting with private cloud, you cannot go to public cloud later on, or if you're starting with public cloud, you cannot go to private cloud later on. That is completely a wrong thing altogether. You can start with either public cloud, then move to private cloud, or you can start with private cloud, then move to public cloud. To give you an example, is the customer, they're trying to modernize their application, but if they cannot move their application directly to a public cloud environment without modernizing their application and making them cloud native. That is an excellent case of private cloud requirement, where you use IBM Cloud Private, use those cloud features like containers, data, AI, analytics, and make your cloud native application, modernize your application using IBM Cloud Private infrastructure, which is a private cloud. And once you have done that, you move to public cloud. That is again one of the examples. The example of moving to public cloud first, then coming back to private cloud is a tricky affair there. When a customer is looking at that particular option, you assure that this is a customer that is not comfortable in moving their data to public cloud. And the best use case for this is they move their applications like the dev workload, the test workload to public cloud, test them, and once it is tested, move the production to the private cloud, which means the data, the customer data, the consumer data, or the financial, the data that it want to move to public cloud still remains on their premises, which is in a private cloud, and it is still using those cloud benefits, which means they can test those applications in public cloud and run them in a private cloud. So this is where the containerization of the application and workload comes handy into the game, where you develop application and workloads and containers in public cloud, and once you have done them, developed them, tested them, you deploy those containers in your private cloud for production. That means you're not exposing your data to public cloud. So these are the kind of different environment, different scenarios that you would get when you're talking to customers. And based on that, your migration strategy will be different, your cloud journey will be different. And believe me, each and every customer have different view of cloud, and their problem statements are different. And based on that, the solution that we put across will vary from customers, because it's not fit for all, even though it is cloud. So mostly people take it for granted that, okay, cloud is easy, we can easily move to, but it is easy when you use it in a manner that is easy to understand to different stakeholders. Otherwise, it can be very difficult when you look at different compliances, especially at these kind of world that we're in, where every day we're looking at security loopholes, data leaks. We recently had Facebook issues sometime some months back. After that, the data residency rule coming into India. So with multiple compliances, multiple rules, and customer data, consumer data, types of data coming into the picture, we have to look at all those things and figure out which cloud fits best for us, whether it is a private cloud or a public cloud or a hybrid cloud. And again, kind of infrastructure you have, like if you have VMware, how do you modernize? So as we discussed, you can either start with the private cloud, then expand to public, and you can either start with the public cloud and then expand to private. Some of the use cases of easy targets we discussed, like backup and archive, is an easy workload to move to public cloud. Similarly, if you're looking at disaster recovery site where you'll put your DR in cloud and your DC is on-prem and you're putting DR something somewhere in cloud. That is again one of the use case where we see a lot of traction among customers. And similarly, if you're looking at private cloud data, containers is one of the brilliant example of starting with private cloud analytics data, because with the current landscape, different customers, and in fact, a lot of customers are looking at applying artificial intelligence, applying machine learning, and making sense out of the data. So we do that, and you have a mandate that you can't expose your data to outside. Private cloud is again one of the best solutions for you. So let's have another poll. Whatever you spoke about, let's see how much you understand and what do you think about migrating data to applications. So let's have another poll here, and I'll give you 15 seconds to respond to this. Okay. All right. So I'm just waiting for the poll result to come up, and then we'll start. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, any queries, anything that we spoke, you can put your questions in the chat window. And once we get into the Q&A, I'll answer those questions for you. I'll try to answer them all. And looking at the time, we figure out what questions we can answer and what question we can skip. Okay, the result I have. So 40% of the people saying, okay, migration of data is easy. Interesting. And 60% of the people saying migration of data or application to cloud is not easy. Mm-hmm. All right. To summarize, it is not easy or it is not difficult as well. It all depends on how do you define the migration and what kind of expertise you have in terms of migration, and then what is the right cloud for you. If you select a particular public cloud or a private cloud, and if you have done the due diligence, migration becomes very easy. But if it is the wrong cloud choice and if it is the wrong platform choice, then it becomes very difficult to migrate data and workloads, and it goes haywire as well, especially at today's kind of scenarios where all the customers have high expectations. Any customer that you go, if you tell them about the cloud story. They'll talk about, okay, what is the benefit that I'm going out of Hadoop? Taking all these data and applications, how does it make sense to me? And which is where the next set of discussion comes into the picture. Now, when you look at IBM Cloud, the things that we've discussed so far, how do you migrate and modernize your application and data? How do you innovate those modernized application and save cost by optimizing it? There's a lot of back-end work that goes into the picture. And to do all those things, there is an IBM technology stack available. So if you look at applications, we have different methods and tools in terms of applications. And when you look at data and AI, you have a huge data platform in Watson. And Watson Data Platform is one of the best data platform that is available in the market right now. Then which kind of cloud platform you're looking at, whether it's public or private. IBM offers both public and private cloud platforms. The public one is called IBM Cloud, and the nearest data center we have is in Chennai. And the cloud private is IBM Cloud Private, what we call the private cloud part, where you can host that IBM Cloud Private within your infrastructure. If you have bare metal servers or VMware infrastructure, you can just dedicate some of the VMs and host IBM Cloud platform on those VMs and get the benefits of cloud flavors, the same orchestration layer we get the same containers built and automate and deploy features of containers. We get the data platform of Watson and AI as well. Then again, we'll take care of the security compliance in terms of data residency. And if you're going to public cloud implementation, and IBM as a company holds high regard to security and compliance, we literally have zero tolerance for security and compliance when it comes to IBM as a company. So when you talk about the technology stack, we have presence across all these touch points, and our IBM Cloud is big on open source as well. So we use a lot of open standards. We provide a lot of open source services in terms of our offerings. So feel free to reach out to him. And again, use the chat window to keep your questions flowing. We'll try to have them answered at the end of the session. Now, once you move to cloud, in today's scenario, customers are looking at the benefits that cloud offers. So, which means the applications are becoming borderless, which means once you containerize a particular application, you can deploy it anywhere. You can deploy it in a public cloud or a private cloud or on your premises as well. You can use your data center or a public and private cloud data center to deploy those applications. And with containers, the microservices and APIs are also becoming very popular. Like if you look at our Watson offering, where we offer a lot of APIs that can connect to the Watson machine learning and data collection sets and give you a lot of benefits. And similarly, if you have a multi-cloud scenario, like today, the large customer that I talk to, most of them are in multi-cloud. If you look at, people have most of the customers are already on Azure using Office 365, and they want a multi-cloud DevOps strategy where they can develop in one particular cloud and deploy production in another cloud. So there are customers where they evaluate multiple cloud vendors for multiple type of workloads. Say, for example, they evaluate or they do their dev work on a particular cloud service provider because that cloud service provides them a lot of cheap compute and offerings. But when they deploy it in production, they deploy it in a on-prem scenario or a private cloud scenario or a different cloud where the security and compliance is met by them. So, say for example, if it is data residency, they have certain reservation. Okay, this is the only cloud that meets my criteria, or else I'll go with private cloud or on-prem. So the applications these days are becoming borderline, and it's pretty critical to understand and make sure that the application can run anywhere, whether it is a private cloud or a public cloud or an on-prem cloud. Similarly, once you move this data and workloads and application to cloud, how do you make sense out of it? Now, as a cloud service vendor, if you have moved all your workloads and data to our platform, now how would I give benefit and how would I make sense of all those huge amount of data that you have put across in the cloud platform, and how do you use them? How do you derive benefits from them? That is where the machine learning part, that is where the artificial intelligence comes into picture. And with Watson and past 15 years of experience, IBM has a lot of expertise. We are in fact, when it comes to AI and ML and cognitive computing, cognitive offerings, we are the leaders in the market. If you can go with the latest Gartner or Forrester report, you'll find Watson topping most of these charts in the leader quadrant everywhere you see. Now, this is how, once you come to IBM Cloud, this is how you're going to make sense out of your data. You can use data for machine learning, mine data for deep learning and artificial intelligence across your data, the multiple and diverse data platforms, and use them for your benefit and make sense out of it. So we have 10 minutes. I'll quickly jump on to a quick 2 minutes demo where I'll show you how the IBM Cloud portal looks like, how the catalog looks like. So this is the IBM Cloud catalog, which is, you go to it's a public portal. You can go to console.bluemix.net/catalog, and you'll find out what are the different catalogs we have. So you see, if I go to compute, you'll find compute offering, which is where you can take a bare metal servers on a monthly or hourly basis. You can take a virtual servers. You can take a mid-speed application servers, build itself and order directly. Similarly, you have VMware offering. You can take a VMware automated deployment option, which is a VMware Cloud Foundation or a VMware vCenter server, or you can just take a bare metal server with vSphere installed on top of it and create your own virtual machine from the cloud. Then we have different security offerings. We have 48 security appliances, 5 load balancers available on subscription basis in IBM Cloud. If you are looking at DR, you can take Zerto on IBM Cloud, where you can have your Hyper-V or VMware-based on-prem infrastructure, and use Zerto to have a DR infrastructure, passive DR on IBM Cloud. Similarly, function is the serverless computing that IBM Cloud offers. We give function as a service, which is basically you just have to run your runtimes and you don't have to worry about the compute that you need. Compute will be provided by IBM Cloud, and you don't have to worry about your hardware anymore, which is serverless computing that IBM functions give. Similarly, Cloud Foundry, we have those Node.js platform, ASP.NET, Go, Swift runtimes, Python, Ruby, PHP, Tomcat, all those runtimes available as well. Then if you go to containers, the IBM provides Kubernetes as a service, where you can deploy containers in a secure and highly available way in multi-zones using Kubernetes service. And so Kubernetes is the orchestration that IBM Cloud provides, and you can bring your own containers for build and deploy containers using Kubernetes. If you do networking, your load balancers, CDNs, then the direct link is nothing but MPLS is linked to the nearest data center. Then direct link exchange, then DNS, internet services is nothing but the global load balancing requirement you have. You can subscribe to this. If you have web application firewall, WAF requirement, you can also use the DDoS protection it provides. You can take this as a service for your application. Will provide IPsec VPN, subnet IP addresses, all those network components. If you go to storage, we have pretty solid offering in terms of block storage, file storage, and object storage. Our object storage is we are the market leader in Gartner quadrant for object storage within the leadership quadrant. Then block storage, it gives you PI of up to 48,000. That is one of the highest tie-ups in the cloud industry that we provide. Up to 48,000 of tie-ups you get when block storage and file storage. Different AI offerings, Discovery, Watson Discovery, Watson Explorer, Knowledge Studio. So all those offerings are listed here. Analytics, weather company data, analytics engine you get, all those things, DB2 warehouse. And so then again, if you go to databases, we have blockchain databases as a service, Cloudend as a service, Compose for Elasticsearch as a service, Compose for PostgreSQL as a service, MySQL is in beta, it's soon going to be in production, MongoDB as a service, you get Redis as a service you get, then again, DB2 as a service, Informix as a service, Scala DB as a service. So there's a different database as a service that we provide in IBM Cloud. Again, there are a lot of developer tools and that you get, and similarly integration, then Internet of Things. You get all these APIs and platforms available on IBM Cloud. The security and identity, a lot of firewalls, shared firewalls, FortiGate security appliances, internet services scope, and SSL certificates that you can buy, so subscribe from here. So there's a lot of all those platform infrastructures have Watson APIs, GenAI, IoT, blockchain, everything is at the same portal. And there are pre-built starters things that you can try out, and then again, these are the normal DevOps functionalities that you get. So that kind of ends my session today. So I'd leave up to you for your Q&As. If you want to ask any questions, feel free to ask your questions. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask them, or you can put your question in the chat window. And you can reach me out. I have my, I'll go back to the first slide. Yeah. So I have my Twitter and LinkedIn details shared here. You can find me BibHub, that's both LinkedIn and Twitter addresses. You can find me there. If you have any questions, I host a lot of meetups as well. You can come and meet me, and any question or any clarifications, any help you need, feel free to reach out to me. And yes, that's kind of ends our session today. I'll leave up to you to ask your questions.
Well, if I may, Mr. Rath, we haven't quite received any questions mentioned in the chat box, but what I could recommend is if you could put out your email ID and have it addressed to all the participants. Maybe at a later stage, they could get back to you with regards to any doubts or clarity that they might require. Well, any which ways, on behalf...
Sure. So
yes, please go on.
Yes, I'm just putting across my email address in the chat window, and if you have any doubts, any queries, feel free to put it across to me. And you also have my LinkedIn address, and you have my email address. Feel free to put it across.
Great. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Rath. And on behalf of the Economic Times, I would like to thank all the participants for joining this webinar and Mr. Rath for sharing his thoughtful insights. We hope it has been a useful time spent with us.